I'm starting to see something dangerous. Apart from the absolute tragedy of the raging wildfires in Los Angeles, deep cracks have been exposed between the city's fire department, mayor, and even as far up as the governor. And all of that started when the LAFD chief, Kristen Crowley, came out and accused the city administration of having failed her department. Take a look at what she said, because it's creating an uneasy rift at such a critical time like this.
I don't think anybody is criticizing the firefighters. I think the criticism has been lobbed maybe 80% at the city of Los Angeles and maybe 20% at the administration here.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I'm here to make sure that we are garnering the support to get our LAFD firefighters what they need to do their jobs, period.
Did the city of Los Angeles fail you and your department and our city?
It's my job to stand up as a chief and exactly say justifiably what the fire department needs to operate to meet the demands of the community.
Did they fail you?
That is our job, and I tell you, that's why I'm here. So let's get us what we need so our firefighters can do their jobs.
Did they fail you?
Yes.
Chief Kristen Crowley, I believe the anchors wanted to ask a question back there, had some comments.
We do, Gigi. If you could please ask her regarding the Times article that came out that the Santa Ynez Reservoir was closed to repairs and it was empty. 117 million gallons of water could have been used in this fight.
The question is about the Santa Ynez Reservoir being empty. There's been a lot of questions about that.
Sure. So my stance on this is when a firefighter comes up to a hydrant, we expect there's going to be water. We don't control the water supply. Our firefighters are there to protect lives and property and to make sure that we're properly trained and equipped. That's my position on this. So if there's no water, I don't know how the water gets to the hydrants. Please defer that to DWP or whomever controls that part. But I can tell you the resiliency of our firefighters, if there's no water, they're going to go find water. They're going to figure out a way to do the best they can with what they've got in a very dynamic situation.
That was awkward, almost as if they're tossing around a grenade hoping they're not caught having to answer questions of accountability. And in that, both the LAFD fire chief and Mayor Karen Bass appear unwilling to shoulder that responsibility. Not just that, there's extremely contradictory statements coming from all three levels, from the fire chief, the mayor, and the governor himself. By the way, we show you the story behind the curtain, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss out. Now, Mayor Karen Bass recently came out to outright deny that any such problem with empty fire hydrants even existed, saying, quote, claims that the tanks weren't full are false. And just let me say that when you have events like this, where emotions are high, it's easy to get caught up in information that is not accurate. I think most of us know that the internet is not always the best place to get accurate info. And on the other end, the governor implicitly admitted that this was a major hurdle in the fight against the wildfire and announced an investigation into why fire hydrants had been running empty. Worse yet, even someone much higher up in the state administration, like Governor Gavin Newsom, was just heard speaking to Anderson Cooper on the ground in the Palisades, where he dodged and tossed the question about the lack of adequate water to local folks.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in Palisades, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was talking to the firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe 1 fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's going to be determined by the local.
In other words, all 3 levels of leadership in this fight seem in a complete disarray, while the courageous firefighters on the ground put their lives on the line regardless. And now this rift is translating into a much greater crack in Los Angeles and in California at large, with resounding calls for Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass to resign and make way for someone more competent. In fact, a petition on change.org has already gained over 100,000 signatures in a couple days, asking Karen Bass to resign. But paradoxically, Karen actually had to face the question from a reporter about whether she's considering firing the LAFD fire chief that had accused her city administration of failing the fire department, and here's how she responded.
Let me be clear about something. The fire chief and I are focused on fighting these fires and saving lives, and any differences that we might have will be worked out in private, but right now, our first and most important obligation to Angelenos is to get through this crisis. When the fire is out, there will be time for us to evaluate, But at the same time, we also must begin the recovery effort, and there'll be more to come from that in the next few days.
When Chief Crowley walked into your office yesterday, were you planning to fire her? Were you angry with her over her media appearance?
Oh my goodness.
And do you agree with her that the fire department is very underfunded?
Let me just say that, as you see here, the chief and I are lockstep in our number one mission. And that mission is to get us past this emergency right now. We want to make sure that we save lives, we save housing, we save businesses, and if there are differences that we have, we will continue to deal with those in private.
Now, you probably think she's trying to act like the bigger person here, but it's hard to blame people when they see this pretense of responsibility as fake, especially since both Karen Bass and the state governor Gavin Newsom have faced criticism from the Los Angeles Fire Department for cutting down essential funds for austerity measures and lowering the city's budget deficit. This fiscal year, the fire department's funds saw a decrease of over $17 million. The fire chief, Kristen Crowley, had warned her seniors in the government months ago that this tight budget was taking a toll on the department's effectiveness and capacity. Not just that, the fire department oddly had to become another vehicle for the state governor's leftist virtue signaling, and that led to hiring of a specialized diversity chief in the firefighting department. Which is just as baffling as it sounds. Here's what this diversity chief actually had to say in an advert a few months prior.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Yep, you heard that right. Instead of inspiring confidence that they're well trained to handle any situation, you'd apparently be victim blamed for getting into a situation in the first place that would require you to be rescued. And as absurd as that is, it's hard to laugh at that when we've seen the fatal consequences of putting ideology over merit. And in all of that heat, people are venting their frustration at the mayor and the governor as the Democrats that have been in charge of the state for so long.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Can you back up? Appreciate it. Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Truly a sight to see, and a sign that these wildfires and their aftermath will have a lot more ripple effects than we can see right now. But let me know how you see all that planning out in the next few days, because right now, getting the wildfire under control and ensuring the safety of all human life dwarfs all other concerns, and frankly, even discussions.